What's going on, Legion fans? Welcome to another episode of Loki, the best Loki podcast out there. We are talking about the latest episode of Loki, and it has hit the fan. Well, as you guys can see, we are joined by our friend.
What is happening?
We are joined by our friend Harry.
Chaos.
Again today.
The Ox King's here.
We had to bring somebody else in because
This is too much.
this is too much.
This
Screams,
is too
that's all it
much.
does.
This is
He
too
does.
much.
You're gonna have to bring it down.
We're bringing down?
maxing out. You're
Oh,
maxing
maxing
the-
out.
Yeah, maxing out.
All right.
Relax. All
Bring
right.
it down there.
All right, so we are in episode 5, so we've
Oh,
got
yeah.
one more episode to go after this episode, and man, did they do a good job of satisfying and yet just wanting us to have that last episode. I want
They
that
did a
last
whole
episode.
lot. They did
They
a
just
whole
took
lot.
the
So
whole-
much.
Every comic piece and just went. And
Yeah.
dumped it right
Yeah.
on us
Yeah,
like a Gatorade.
for people who are like casual MCU
Yeah.
fans to people who are hardcore comic fans.
So much here.
So
deep.
much for everybody. So we've got so much to dig into.
Got a lot to talk about
We
here.
have a lot of. We're going to mainly focus on Easter eggs tonight because there are so
there's
many
too
things.
much. There's too much.
Because really, when it comes to story, all that happened was they need to get to the man behind the curtain. So we
Yeah.
don't really. There's
Yep.
not a
Yep.
huge amount of pushing forward in there, but there were a lot of great little nods.
Yep.
And also some interesting comments about Loki as
Which one?
an individual. Yeah, all
Yeah,
of them.
all of them.
Well,
Individuals. As
Our
in
Loki.
individuals.
We call
I'm
our
thinking,
Loki.
Yeah, right. Well,
Our
no, I
Loki.
mean all of them in
Our.
general. I'm thinking of old Loki, of like classic Loki.
Classic
man.
Loki.
Yeah.
What's being referred to on Twitter as classic
As
Loki.
classic
Classic
Loki.
Loki.
Yeah.
Classic Loki.
His comment and then the follow-up comment by Kid Loki
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how none of us ever change, and whenever we try to, the TVA just sends us here.
Right.
Right. So
right.
like whenever the Lokis try to step
Actually,
out,
classic Loki had a lot of comments that
I loved it.
really
Yeah.
came through.
well,
He
he's
was
been
deep.
sitting and thinking. He's old.
I mean, that
He
time
survived.
on that planet by himself.
Yeah.
He's gone deep. He's gone into some stuff.
What I love is that his Nexus event was literally the fan theories from Infinity War. Because Infinity War, when Loki died, there were fan theories everywhere about, oh, he just projected himself and he hid in the background and he was
Yep,
that was
yep.
all over the place. And the Russo brothers were like, no, but it's not happening. But
Oh, you
this,
mean classic
this Loki,
Classic.
Yeah,
Loki.
classic
That
Loki's
was his
Nexus.
Nexus.
Yeah, yeah,
event.
yeah, his Nexus event.
I thought you were
was,
talking about Kid Loki.
no.
Which
Kid
is
Loki.
Thor.
Just, sup.
Yeah, Kid
Sup.
Loki came
Killed
in.
Thor.
Respect the boy, he
Yeah,
says.
respect the boy. This is his
Okay.
realm.
Man, with the fire sword, which we'll
Oh,
talk
my
about in a
word.
minute. That's
Yeah.
actually from Norse mythology. But
Yeah.
it was just cool to see that, and whether or not this was written before or not, fan theories are actually getting to come to fruition in
Right.
some sense of the word, at least
Yeah,
in
a little
classic.
bit.
I'm
Loki.
amazed by it because we talk about fan theories on here a
Every
bunch.
day.
Yeah, every day. all
Every
the
single
time.
day.
Literally our
I mean,
job.
we make up fan theories on here, but I mean, those fan theories become reality in
Yeah.
Marvel pretty quickly. It's
Yeah.
amazing I'm excited about that because there are fan theories that like people are just like that's stupid, that's
Right.
out, and then this one, some of the stuff that they're like that's out there, they're doing,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
amazing to see.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always Marvel MCU has always seemed to not grasp like one specific comic, besides like Infinity War, obviously,
Right,
like
right.
along that trail.
But even that was unique.
But even that was like they're like we're gonna do our own thing, kind of, and that's why
Oh, yeah.
I think that this one may be different than what everyone thinks it's gonna
Listen,
be.
well, so
if you listen to our last episode,
so this isn't in the
there are
comics anywhere,
things
though.
that I believe and I
Right.
want to say like should happen.
Yeah.
And then there is like what I know about this show, which is everything turns on its own head. So even though
Yes.
everything points to this thing,
yeah,
now
I mean, look at WandaVision.
right.
Yeah.
Now that we're saying everything looks like it's
Yep.
going to be this, it's probably going to be this.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
I believe this is what's gonna happen, but I
Right.
hope that this is what's gonna happen.
Right.
But
But either way, I'm not gonna be mad.
I was
No,
gonna say
no.
the
I'm,
good
I'm
is
in a
always-
place where they can't really
Yeah, they
disappoint
can't
me.
disappoint.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, unless they just all just disappeared.
I mean, unless
The 6th episode never came out.
I like the worst thing I just thought of was like the mad scientist behind all of this is like Howard the Duck. I'd still
Oh, that'd be cool.
I'd still be okay with it. I'd
Yeah.
still be excited. I don't know what they're going to do. We saw at the end a gigantic city that they are going to.
Well,
and
at least
like,
a castle.
At
I'm
least
not
a
sure if it was
castle.
a
I
full
should say
city.
castle. It wasn't a
Yeah,
full.
yeah, it's like a big
but like
castle.
it looks intimidating. It looks
People-
menacing. It looks.
It's got a light in it.
It's got a light in it. Somebody
are-
is there.
People are saying it's Doctor Doom.
Yeah, that's
his
definitely
castle.
not true.
It's not. It's not.
No
at
way.
all.
There's
No,
way.
no,
No
there's
way.
no way.
He's not a big bad guy.
No,
Yeah.
he's not.
He's not
no.
big enough. I should
No,
say.
and some people are referencing Chronopolis, which is the
Yeah.
city that Kang creates from the future.
Right.
Yep.
So
Right.
Well,
it's only one
yeah.
building, so it's not the whole city of Chronopolis,
Sure.
but it could just be you could just be seeing a section of it, or kind of like how Wayne Manor is off in the
Mhm.
distance.
On
You
the
could
other
have
side.
his,
Other
his
side of
castle out
Gotham Bay.
there. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
You're
there's,
on a literal island, both figuratively and literally.
there is so much in this episode, so let's
Yeah, we
start
gotta
tackling
jump in
through.
here.
All right, so just to give a framework, so we know where we're at. So the episode we get confirmed that when people are pruned, they're sent to kind of a basin, like a bin. That's at
Yep.
the end of time.
They ain't deleted.
They're
Well,
not.
They
it's
ain't
not,
dead.
it's not the end of time. It's
It's what
it's
they're
its
working
own.
towards.
Yeah, it's its own
Yeah.
area that's always continuing with the end of time.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't care about it. Next
It's just
events,
piggybacking off of end of time.
Next
We
events
know
can
what
happen
we
all
throw there
over the place.
disappears.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
that's basically what they say.
Either survives or
But
dies.
but it
Eternally.
is also a gateway to the end of time, which is where the
Right.
timekeepers are hanging out.
Right,
So
which is like it's like this barrier, but
Right,
it's this
right.
barrier that is continually moving with the end of time.
A-
It's
and
a
it's
purgatory. It's whatever you want to call it, but it's this weird place that nothing survives in.
yeah, and the barrier or the entryway to the end of time is being guarded by a creature called an Alioth,
Alioth,
which we'll talk
yeah.
about in a minute when we get to the Easter eggs. But it's this giant purple creature, purple misty
Cloud
smoky
creature.
It's a thing from Lost, but
Yeah,
but
No, I'm just
that's
kidding.
But
it better.
way-
Than,
Immediately
it
when I was like,
better.
"Are
I
we
love
going Lost
the,
here?"
the skull head in it.
Yeah.
like when you
Yeah.
see, like, the
You're like, oh, it's a
bone in it.
lion, and then you're like, wait, no,
Yeah,
that's
so
not a lion.
cool.
You're like, no, it's a.
It's like a beak. It's got like a beak.
Yeah,
I thought it
it's
looked more
weird.
like an ox, like a cow skull. Like,
Yeah.
I think we
At
all
first I
saw
thought it was a
something
turtle,
else. I think we
too.
all saw
It's one of those, like,
something else.
Cumulonimbus clouds. You're like, oh, what is that?
yeah, or like the ink blot test. But anyway,
Yep.
so their
Foreshadowing.
goal. So Sylvie ends up pruning herself to find Loki.
OG. What a
Right.
what a
That was
bold
so
movie.
legit.
Yeah.
Bold move,
Yeah.
Cotton.
I call her Dak Shepard female version,
She is.
but she's
Incredible.
probably one of my favorite characters. She's
She's
just like
great.
She's
Yeah.
incredible.
She's great.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So she goes to that end of time area to find Loki and try and bring him. Well, actually, she was going to go by herself, but Loki
Right.
decided to go with her
Right.
to the end of time to find out who's behind it and stop them.
Right.
They also find Mobius in there, and they send him
Good
back
on
to the,
Owen Wilson.
back to the TVA.
Surviving.
wow.
to
Yeah,
burn
he's
everything.
alive. He's surviving. He's ready to go.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, he's going back to the TVA. He's gonna,
He's gonna
burn
burn
it
it.
to the ground.
Burn to the ground.
well, so in the comics, Mobius is there's clones of Mobius, lots of
Right.
Mobius
There's a
clones.
bunch of
There's a
them,
whole
yeah.
bunch of Mobiuses, and they actually Mobii.
It's
Moby.
definitely Mobii.
Mobii for
Moby.
plural.
Moby
Mobius is
Moby Obii.
Moby Obi.
Well, there's a lot of them,
E-I-E-I-O.
and they've teased at that throughout the series. Actually, there in this episode, he sees the alligator Loki, and he doesn't
Right.
remember
Yep.
capturing him. So
Right.
maybe another
And the
Mobius
rings.
did, and the rings on the
rings
desk from
coffee
like the
table,
second episode.
whatever it is.
Rayvana was like, "Oh, you put him there," and he's like, "I don't remember that."
Right.
That's because it probably was another Mobius clone. So
yeah.
the thought maybe is the Mobius clones, they eventually get to the point where they distrust the TVA and have to be pruned.
Yep.
Sure.
But he's so good that they keep grabbing variants of him to
Right.
come in and help.
Yeah.
So there's probably a bunch of variants. We might see him. Who knows? Or it might just be a little nod to
Just
the
as a
fans.
quick little thing there, another Dune reference. I'm just going to bring it up because I love
Word.
Dune.
Clones.
Duncan, Idaho is a Gola that keeps coming back up because of
Right.
how powerful he is, and how
Yes.
strong he
Yeah.
is, how loyal
A
he is.
little different though, because
No,
these
but I'm
are
just saying,
different
it's-
timeline versions of him.
Well, it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah,
There
I
are
guess.
different timeline versions of Duncan, Idaho in
Yeah.
Dune, which is amazing. But another poll, just an FYI.
Yeah,
All right.
right.
All right, so let's dive into some of these Easter eggs.
Yes.
here. So I wrote down a whole bunch of them.
Knock them off. Here we
We're
go.
gonna go through. So we'll save the best for last. So if you're listening now and you want to take a pause, like, subscribe, go have a bathroom break, and then come back and listen to the good ones because these are
Right.
just the fun ones first.
Right.
All right. So these don't really have much say on the story. This is tough to read through this thing. All right. Frog Thor. So Throg is there.
Frog.
Jumping for Mjolnir as they
Yeah.
go down through the ground. I love Frog Thor. That was such a great run.
Yeah, man.
All the animal Asgardians. It's just super funny to actually see Throg
Yeah, they
jumping around for no reason. It was great. Loki.
I
Throg.
think that, but then also Alligator Loki chomping off Loki.
President
Loki's
Loki's
hand.
He's like,
the
Ah!
scream. Yeah, the scream when he loses it. And there was and, like the blood kept.
Yeah.
I was like,
So
oh.
that was like one of my favorite parts of the whole episode.
Gator
President
don't give a
Loki
crap.
thinks he's got
Yo.
he
Gator
got
don't
no
care.
loyalty. No loyalty.
I also love how classic Loki's defense of
He's green.
Alligator Loki. He's green, isn't he?
He's
Like,
green.
of that he's a Loki.
and I just love how Kid Loki's just like, attack, and he just like throws him like
Yeah, he
a like a
just throws
Pokeball.
it. Yeah, it's so good.
I choose you, Alligator Loki.
Yo, animal Asgardians is where it's at. We need a whole show about animal Asgardians.
I'd be for it.
All right, so
what if could?
yeah, what if could? Well,
What
you
if
know,
could
We're not
you
gonna
ever
talk.
drop-
We're not gonna talk about
Don't
that.
go there.
We're
not
Don't
going
go
there.
there.
All right, super funny one. Thanos' helicopter is in there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's an
Trying to get the
actual
cube.
there's an actual comic where Thanos has a yellow helicopter that
Yeah.
he flies around in, and that was broken in
Yep.
in the area. So that was
And he
cool.
gets handcuffed at the end of it.
Yes, yeah. It's like
They put handcuffs on Thanos. Like, you're going to jail, big guy.
well, they were in Infinity Stone handcuffs. No,
Yeah.
they weren't. They were just
They were
bizarre.
silver stainless steel.
Yeah, well, it was the Silver Age of comics. All right, we have a
That's the same explanation as well. He's green.
It works. I believed it. As a kid, I was like, yeah, get him. Put those handcuffs on him.
Tough book him, Dano.
We see a shield helicarrier destroyed.
Oh,
some
yeah.
some fans have looked, and I tried to see it. I freeze framed like 100 times. I zoomed in on all the things I could. I didn't really see it, but some people think it has the Hydra symbol on it, which
That's,
makes it.
I think that's a little bit.
It's a little bit,
grabbing.
but it's
Yeah.
like the idea. I
So
like.
it'd be one of the
There's too many-
helicarriers.
It would be when in Captain America,
Yeah.
Winter Soldier,
Winter Soldier
Right.
that was
they
able
won.
to make
like
it
they
out.
actually did it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. We see Ronin's ship, the Accuser's ship. Which
Oh,
is
yeah.
Yeah.
Probably went like in a timeline where Captain Marvel didn't destroy it and
Yep.
it got whatever. We also have
Or the Guardians didn't destroy it.
yes. Well, Captain Marvel destroys Ronin's ships in Captain Marvel as well.
Yeah, but it was
not
I
the
mean,
one
not
he's
the one
on,
he's
but
on.
that same
Yeah.
class of ship.
But yeah, or it could be where the
It
Guardians.
could be the
did.
Guardians.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Loki's fire sword, and I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation because I'm not Nordic.
Here, give it here. I got it.
You-
Let me 12 years of Nordic
Yeah.
language pronunciation.
It's Leviatine. Leviatine. It's Laevateinn.
I'll go Leviatine.
Anyway,
Yeah, okay.
it's a
Time.
it's a. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you dumb or are you deaf?
Fail me now. It goes back
Christina.
to real Norse mythology. Loki used the sword in Norse mythology, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That Kid Loki gives that to him.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
sweet. And the last one,
Yo,
which-
they helped out so much more at the end.
who Kid and Classic?
And
We're
classic
not there
Loki.
yet.
Hold on, I'm just saying.
Logan.
No, but we're only going through a lot of the Easter eggs.
Yeah,
So what I'm
yeah,
that's
saying
true.
is,
Kid helped them
Kid
find
and Classic were like, no, this is our home. We're gonna stay here.
Yeah.
And
And
they
then
did.
they both help out a ton
Right.
at the end.
Well, they both
and
were like-
classic Loki.
Deuce. And
yeah,
then they came back.
and then
Yeah.
they come right back.
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm
true.
like,
Yo,
it was
Classic Loki
crazy.
goes OP
Yeah.
on everybody. It was fantastic.
Classic Loki just destroyed.
All right, we're not there
All right,
yet.
last
Okay.
one. Yeah,
Whatever.
last little fun one, which actually
Yeah.
could have more of a say on it. If you noticed, there's a lot of heads in this
Yeah.
planet, like giant stone heads or
Yeah.
giant
Yeah.
heads in
Giant
general.
things, too.
Yeah, so
all over.
Yeah.
There's a head of a character from the Marvel comics called the Living Tribunal.
Yes.
He has been mentioned. He's been mentioned in Doctor Strange 1.
Yep.
The like electric fire whip thing that's shown at the Ancient One's temple was
Yes.
from the Living Tribunal. But what's important about him is that in the Marvel comics, he keeps order in the multiverse.
Yes, he
And
does.
his head was there.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if it was a stone statue of his head or if it was he was turned to stone and then his head was cast there. Who
Well,
knows?
Yellow Jacket's head was there,
But
too.
his head there. Yeah, well, that's actually for me. That's in the Kang ones.
Really?
So
Yeah.
because
well, I guess so.
because Ant-Man 3 is when Kang is confirmed to show up, and so
Yeah.
that's a little tease to the Ant-Man series, and also shows a time when Yellow Jacket knew how to.
Living
Grow big.
Tribunal though is
Yeah.
interesting because that could be so much bigger. Like,
Oh,
there
yeah,
could
for
be
sure.
so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
more they
There's
could
so
dig
much
into
in
there.
here that there could be bigger. But yes,
Well,
absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
things
yeah.
that they have. That's the first thing he said that like is not a past reference.
Yeah.
Everything
Yes.
else
Yes.
was
Right.
we've already delved into these storylines.
Well,
So it's
yeah.
cool to see
Yeah,
them
yeah.
again. But the Living Tribunal is the first one that you're mentioning that we haven't dug into yet.
Except for
so
Throg.
could be. Well, yeah. Okay.
Throg for the win.
So the Living Tribunal could be one of those things where that's actually one of the ones that's foreshadowing for
Yes.
something more
Yeah, it could.
in the future.
That's why I saved it for last.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
move.
So let's get into the important ones. So
Yeah.
these are the ones that. So we have been promoting on this channel a theory of Kang,
Right.
being at least a part of it. So I don't think we
Somewhere in there.
necessarily thought he was going to be the big final boss, but
did.
well, at least he's going to be there at the end. And
My
I still
point-
think he's going to be there at the end.
My point with him being introduced at the end was that's what we expect. And
Sure.
like this continues to go to that fact of like everything is pointing and you're about to go into a bunch of reasons.
Yes. Why?
Things are pointing to Kang and here are the reasons why. However, this show, Loki it specifically, has shown us they will point to all of these things and then flip it completely different.
Yep,
They will
100%.
flip it and turn it on its head, and they'll make it look as though it was this, but it's actually this. And that's what I think is there are two potential options here. It's either Kang,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
going to
yeah,
clean
yeah.
things up really nicely, or it's going to be somebody that could be related to Kang. And like they're kind of framing Kang in this in some way
mean,
or shape or form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be three options.
Oh, what's
Oh,
what
wait,
do you
wait,
got?
wait.
Whoa,
Let's
whoa,
go
whoa.
through the Easter eggs first,
Okay,
and
let's
then we'll
do the
talk
Kang
about.
Easter eggs, and then
Well, I
I'm
didn't
gonna
get
get
to
to
do
them.
my Easter eggs. I like
Oh,
that.
give me
Oh,
a
what
what
do
you
you
say?
want?
Eldridge, USS Eldridge.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That,
Philadelphia.
that is
Yeah.
sick. The
I
one
like
that,
that one.
That,
No
that
kidding.
was
Yeah.
thought
Because
it thought it vanished because it was a ship that was designed to stay
It
away
had
from
cloaking
tracking
devices,
Right?
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
And,
right.
and then they lost it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
And
like
it is a giant ship, and then you see USS Eldridge. And
Yeah.
there was also a couple different
it's
Easter
like
eggs
the DB
too.
Cooper
Yeah,
reference,
exactly.
where it's like an
Those
Earth's
guys immediately
mystery
went
that-
to
They're like,
war.
open fire!
Yeah, they went to war.
they were
Listen,
They were ready.
Listen, they saw one of their dudes get like eaten from the inside out by a giant purple thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
but that
fire.
for most like
Yeah.
so they've just been dropped into nowhere. That's
Yo,
gonna
they're-
shock most people.
they've been
These
trained.
guys were like, I don't
I'm
care.
trained.
Yeah.
Open fire.
Yeah.
I would. I've got cannons.
Yep.
And there's a giant purple
It's true.
cow, turtle, lion thing coming
Yeah.
at me.
Right.
Well, also there was like the arcade game that was called
Yes.
Plebus, something like that.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
weird
yeah,
like that. I forget
yeah.
what it is, but it was like supposedly an experimental government arcade game that was for like
For
figuring out people,
monitoring and
yeah,
brainwashing and
Yeah.
stuff.
people's psyche, and then the only other two that I can think of were the one was a license plate that was a weird spelling of one
Is
of
this
the
one that you had?
original editors of or creators
Creators of Mobius.
creators,
He
but
created
he created
Mobius.
Mobius,
That's
and that's who
pretty
they
awesome. Yeah.
like based his looks off in the comic books off of that writer,
That's awesome.
and then the
Yeah.
one on the bus,
And Owen Wilson too. Oh, they
Yeah.
based Owen Wilson's look in
Yeah.
the show
Great
after the
homage.
writer.
and then
Yeah.
the one on the bus who was a current writer of Loki or something like that. But
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. There was also
as far as I remember, that those are the only other four, I guess.
I felt super like a sleuth in this one because
Yeah.
nobody else found this.
What did you
And then I
find?
found out it's nothing.
Oh.
So at the very end, before they go for the Goliath,
Yeah.
they meet in a barber shop that's all in ruins. It's called Dom's Cuts. And I was like, ooh, Dom's Cuts, Marvel Comics. Nothing. There's no, it was just a random barber shop they chose. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I thought it was, I was like, at first I was like, oh, that's Luke Cage's barber. Like, no, that's
Yeah.
Pops. That's
Yeah.
Pops' barber shop.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why he was there.
Maybe
Because
it was the
instead of-
wrong
it was
barber
the wrong
shop.
barber shop.
Dom's took over Pops, so they had to
Right.
get rid of him, so that
And so they
Pops could
cut
keep
it.
going.
So they
That's
cut it.
business,
Maybe.
baby.
That's
Yeah.
business.
Anyway,
All right.
sorry.
Go ahead. Let's get into these Kang.
All right,
Easter
so
eggs.
here's our Kang Easter eggs, the ones that
Yep.
were obviously in there for Eagle Eye fans.
Wait, can I guess what
Um,
your biggest one is?
Sure, go
Or
for it.
is
No,
your
no,
biggest
no.
one the first one? Is your first one the biggest one? Is it QENG?
I'd say that's tied with my second one, but that
Okay,
is a really
anyway.
big one. You want to say that one? Well, it's that one.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Well,
Yeah,
that was
you
on
can't-
the
you
Stark
can't
building.
You can't do
So
that.
when you're like going through
Yeah,
the
yeah,
city
yeah,
of all the
yeah.
broken down and seeing everything,
Right,
with
the
like the
Avengers
buses,
Tower.
you see
Yep.
the Avengers Tower,
Yeah.
which is really Stark Tower,
Yep.
and that has QENG on it, which kind of sounds like Kang,
Mhm.
which in one of the comics, or I guess one of the main ones, that's where Kang gets stuck in the 21st century. Then he becomes like a really powerful person within business world.
Yep.
Then he buys I guess he buys Stark Tower pretty much
Yep.
off of
Yes.
like, Stark,
Yeah.
and then that's where, I mean, it's like broken down in there, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so Kang.
That's where I'm trying to go through,
Yeah.
like, through the timeline. I'm like,
Walk
yep, that's it.
through. Got
Check
to
them
the
off, check
timeline.
them off. Yeah, so Kang Enterprises is
Yes.
the company that Kang creates when he's in the 21st century.
Nathan Richard.
And so, well, so he's a descendant, and we talked about this in our other episodes, but he's a descendant of Reed Richards from the
Right.
future,
Yes.
Yep.
who time
Yep.
travels back.
Yep.
So that was one that was up there for me. The one that kind of tied with that is the fact that the Alioth, so the Alioth creature is called
Right.
Alioth the Usurper in the comics,
Right.
Yep.
and he is a minion of Kang.
Right.
So
Yep.
he's literally used to protect
And
Kang in
Renslayer,
the comics.
like, beat him,
Yeah.
didn't she?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really big connection to Kang, and his power is having the Usurper there with him.
So it's
Sorry.
Whoa,
Sorry. It's been a
whoa.
while.
the Ox King slamming down the hammer.
knocking it.
Well, so
Yeah.
there's all of that. I want to go to
There's
a
more.
storyline piece though.
I mean, there is more.
Before you go, I know.
But wait, there's more.
But I want to go to a storyline piece that I don't think you're going to have because it's not really an Easter egg.
Okay,
It's-
let me hear it.
So it's about Renslayer.
Yeah.
So we have Renslayer here, who at the beginning is trying to play it off now that
Yes.
she is just as shocked as anybody else.
Oh, my
to,
word.
To be learning that the timekeepers
What?
do not actually exist.
Yeah.
Playing it off terribly.
Yeah.
I don't know why Loki,
Sylvie
Sylvie,
believed
believes
her.
her at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
At all.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
but what I'm saying
she
here
has
is
no like human like.
yeah, she's no social cues.
Yeah, she's no like she didn't have much human interaction.
that's true.
All she
That is
knew
a
was
really
chaos.
good point. That is
That's
a
it.
really
Yeah.
really
She was a
good
child
point.
when she left
Good,
Asgard.
good. So we
Yeah.
can chalk it up to that. However, Renslayer clearly knows
Yeah.
more about what is going on here.
Oh yeah,
so
she's
if,
trying to
if
cover
we
it
have
all up.
Renslayer, we know, and we know she knows something. We know it has to be related to Kang.
Yeah.
Kang and
Yeah.
Renslayer go together.
They
So-
do like peas in a pod.
What I'm talking about here is when Renslayer turns on Sylvie before she
Prunes.
prunes herself. Yeah, that was what I was going for. Self
Self-
prunes herself.
Destructs.
Self destructs. She is buying time with Miss
Yes.
Minutes, which
Yeah.
breaks my heart a little bit.
I know she's
because
using Miss Minutes.
She's using her.
No, you know
she's
what?
using
No,
her. It's
no,
manipulation.
No, Miss Minutes is using her.
Maybe
Miss Minutes is
maybe.
in control.
She's in control here.
Always.
But the point being,
Yeah.
Renslayer has to have some sort of back door to
Yes.
whatever this place
I'm
is
sure she
beyond
does.
Goliath.
She's
Yeah.
gonna
She
show up.
knows what is going on. She's going to show up
Yeah.
on the other side here
I wouldn't be surprised
when the Lokis get to wherever this is.
I wouldn't be surprised if she's the big bad, and then she reveals Kang at the end. Like if she goes to meet
bold
them and then
statement.
fights.
It's a bold
That's
and
bold
that's
statement.
the
Right?
fight.
And as
Yeah.
everyone at my work knows, I like bold statements.
It
Yeah,
is a
you
bold
do.
statement, and
All
it's
right.
a good one.
Well, before we
Yeah.
get to our theories of how everything is going to end, let's get these last. I only have one more because we already talked about the Yellow Jacket.
Yellow
hat.
Jacket thing.
Hit
yeah.
me.
So the last one is probably the most obscure. But if you and I didn't, it was so obscure I didn't even recognize it. I got it from a couple sites pointed it out, and I saw it, and I was like, oh really? Went back and looked. So at one
Stealing.
point, no collaborating.
end of
You
the
better
show,
watch
folks.
it. You might get pruned.
Oh no.
You might not. You may
I'm
not
the best
you may
variant.
not supposed to know this.
I'm the sixth Greg you've gone through in this series. I picked the wrong number.
Sixth.
Anyway, so at one point in the very end, when they're about to go after the Alioth,
Yeah.
you see in the background a few popular Earth structures. You see Stonehenge,
Yep.
Yep.
but you also see the Great Sphinx.
Okay.
The Sphinx is what's
spaceship.
important. Yeah, so the Sphinx was used as a disguised time travel machine by Kang
Yep.
Yes.
to bring him
Yes,
back to the
you're
past.
Right. Yes.
And so it's there. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, that might not be the one that he used. That might not be time, but it's there for fans to see and be like, oh,
There's
Kang.
too much here. There's too
so
much
much
here.
here.
But this is again, it just goes to like, it's too clean.
I think
It's
I don't
too
know.
clean. What now? What is
Yeah.
your third
All right, so
theory?
yeah, let's go on with the theories here. So
All
go
right.
ahead, Harry.
I'm saying
Guest first.
the biggest big bad is, well, I think it's Immortus,
Ooh.
which is when Kang
Wow.
becomes his like superior self, which is then ruler over all the timelines,
Right.
kind of.
Sure.
He takes the job for the timekeepers and pretty much says, like, go on your vacation at the end of time.
So
Interesting.
let me ask a clarifying question.
Yes.
Do you think he'll be Immortus here, or will he
I
be
think
Kang here
I
and
think he's
Immortus
Immortus
in
here
Ant-Man 3?
and Kang and Wasp and Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And because this is a different Loki. So this is not the Loki that we see. So I think in the castle, I think it's going to be King Loki. This is what I was saying. Like,
Where
I
are
don't,
you going?
I don't think so. I think
You
it's
got to
King
clarify
Loki.
here. Walk
So-
me through
so-
this.
okay.
So the castle we see after they
Yeah.
part the Alliance, you
Right.
think King Loki
I
is in
think
that
King
castle?
Loki's in there working for Immortus.
Okay.
And I think this is just biggest bold statements, but I'm
Do it.
saying like I think King Loki is the Loki from the when Thanos kills Loki, and I think that's because one of the biggest things you guys didn't even mention, I mean me included, yet was that they kept saying that like the daggers hold us back.
Yes.
Right.
That
Yes.
the power, we are more powerful, and you see that with classic
our
I
Loki.
illusions.
loved that. Was one
Okay,
of the lines
so
that I was
I
saying
think
I loved
that
with classic
one of the
Loki.
things that could be a possibility because we see through the MCU that the MCU likes to create things on their own. I think that through that they're saying that Loki becomes King Loki, and he's actually self-project to Thanos, who's obviously able to see through a lot of like magic and mystic, obviously, and also as he had a lot of the stones for the gauntlet.
He didn't have the reality yet,
Right,
though,
but he
so-
had some of them, so he was
Yeah,
powerful enough to see through some stuff, but maybe not all of it. So I think that was him self-projecting Loki as Loki, just to be able to become then King Loki, and then Immortus kind of comes to him and says like, or he may not be working with him, but he may be like kind of in cahoots, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm
Wow.
thinking
And so in other words, Ant-Man 3 will take place before Kang
Kang is
becomes
Kang.
Immortus.
Because
Yeah.
the only thing why I thought that was because we see the Sphinx, we see all these other things, we see the QENG building, we see like all these things that kind of like hint to like Kang, but that's Kang throughout his life, not Immortus. So at this point, those things have already happened, and they're thrown into this place where they are.
Okay.
So then
okay.
at this point, when they open that up, that's not going to be Kang. It's going to be eventually it'll be King Loki. Then
the
it'll be
end of his
Immortus.
run. Yeah.
Right. Because
Okay.
we see that the timekeepers aren't at the TVA.
Right.
We don't know where they are.
Right.
Right.
Well,
So
we think they're dead.
We think they're dead, and we
Kang killed
think
them.
Kang, either killed them or
Or-
whatever, or they go with they're at the end of time,
Yeah.
and Kang's running the show. So if Kang's running the show, then I think it could be a possibility that it's Immortus, and then, it's Loki, King Loki,
Ooh.
because the
Wow.
show
All
is
right,
about
all right,
Loki.
all right.
That is a
Keep
real.
the main
see-
thing, the main
Well,
thing,
see,
man.
now,
that
and
is
I agree.
That is a good point.
I agree
That
with
is a
that.
good
I
point.
agree with that. And we had a fan comment on one of our videos saying similar, that they believe that Loki was going to be the end big bad kind of a thing, like that they're going to find Loki at the castle. But what I push back on is that no, this show is about Loki, and it's about the fact that Loki can be good, can change.
Yeah.
And so you even look at Mobius's phrase when classic Loki says like, "Wow, you're just going to turn on everything you believed," and
Right.
and he looks at classic Loki and he says, "It's never too late to change."
Mhm.
And then that was foreshadowing to classic Loki coming in and
Yeah.
not self-preserving, but going out and helping the greater good.
Yeah.
And I think Sylvie is the ultimate representation of that. This is a Loki who has changed so much, and she's inspiring change in other Lokis. That's the purpose. So Loki no longer has to be the villain,
Yeah.
because Loki is actually being proven that he can change, or she can change.
Right. But
So
that's I also
I like
think
the
that
Immortus thing, though.
the TVA is in control of those people, the Lokis that are trying to change and be better, and that's why they're taking them out, because they're like,
Yes.
their job is to be
Right.
mischievous
yes,
and
chaos.
chaos.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Right, which is what I've said the whole time.
Right.
Which is what I've been.
Why our Loki's wrong.
Our Loki
Wrong.
is there's something wrong about our Loki,
Yeah.
and
even Kid
that's-
Loki
I
notices
think
it.
that's nailing the point. Is like what classic Loki said. Every time they try to change,
Yep.
the TVA prunes them.
Yep.
And so
Right.
I think that names this point here. But I really like your idea here. I just think
It's
it's
out
out
there.
of order.
Yeah,
I
well,
just think it's out of order. I think,
but it could be because this is time travel. So in other words, what he's saying is
where we are is not.
it's not out
doesn't
of
have
order.
to be
We're
chronological
right. We're
order.
at the end
Actually,
of
you're
time.
right.
Yeah, we're at the end of time.
We're at
so
the end of time.
We're moving
Kang
along with
would
it.
be Kang would be at his ultimate state because they
Which
were
is
at the
Immortus.
end of time, which is Mortis. And I do get that. I just wonder if it's a little too much to introduce Immortus before you introduce Kang. Like since they haven't
I think that
even
that
touched
muddies.
on Kang.
I think that muddies the water. I agree
Yeah.
with you. I get what you're saying. Hear what I'm saying here, though.
All right,
I
what's your theory? What do you think?
I
Go
think
for
this goes back to where we've talked about before. Marvel wants to make the TV shows be an enhancement of the
Yes,
MCU,
and not necessary.
and not necessarily a requirement for you to watch to like know what is going on with the story. We talked about with Winter Soldier, where you don't have to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier to know that Sam is the new captain.
Right, we
Like,
saw the
we know
shield
that there's
pass
a
off
whole
in
lot
Endgame.
more behind
Right.
it. We know that that's a great story. We encourage everyone to watch it, but it's not necessary for you to know that with the MCU. I believe that we are going to get Kang introduced here at the end as Kang trying to become Immortus.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Loki-
I
That
would
could be
agree.
true. Yeah.
Loki's break that. We know that this entire time, the problem that the Lokis have been is they are creating problems with the timeline. So they create a problem that breaks Kang's plan to become Immortus, and that introduces then for Ant-Man 3, Kang going back into the timeline, having to have to go from the end of time back into the timeline or into the quantum realm.
Right.
Because we still haven't talked about how we could be in the quantum realm here.
That
Yeah,
that could just be
Well, we talked about it last.
a
podcast.
wrench
Right,
in the
but what I'm
gears.
saying
you
is-
just never
Yeah.
know with
Yeah.
if you just throw it like quantum realm. Maybe
Right,
it's like
you
it could be
just-
like,
it
oh
could
well,
be-
that makes
that
sense.
throws
Well,
everything off.
and we've
But
talked
my-
about how we believe the TVA is located in the quantum.
Right.
realm.
Right. So my point here could be Kang is trying to become Immortus.
Right.
Kang has already usurped the timekeepers.
Right.
We know that now. And he then has to go back into the timeline, back into the past, into our modern day. It's not modern day, but Ant-Man's time
Right.
to be able to rectify something, to be able to then become Immortus.
Right.
So it's the same idea. It's just
Yeah,
flipping the
different
order.
order.
But I get what you're saying because I think it's now that's clean.
Yeah,
What I'm saying
yeah.
here is that's really clean.
Yeah.
All right. So
If
let me.
we need to break that up,
Yeah.
like we need to think really
Well,
outside
let
of the
me-
box.
Let me throw a little wrench in. So
Throw
here's
a
what
wrench.
here's what I think. So
Wrench time.
here's what plumber.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
That's right.
Good
so
luck with that.
so here's what I think is going down. So I think they'll get to the castle,
Yep.
and I think the timekeepers will still be there.
Interesting.
Okay. So I think the actual timekeepers will still be there.
I'm out.
With
You lost
Hold
me.
on.
You lost me.
with Kang.
Okay.
So Kang, either he's one of them or he's with them,
Yeah.
regardless. All right. Renslayer will get there to that time, the same time the Lokis do.
Okay.
And in that moment, Kang will realize it's now or never. He'll kill the timekeepers in front of Renslayer, who I think, or not Ren.
The Lokis.
Yeah, Ravana. Yeah. No. He'll kill the timekeepers.
In front of the
In-
Lokis too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In front of
Loki's
everybody.
okay.
and Ravana.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll kill the timekeepers, and Ravana will have to pledge her allegiance to him, kind of a thing. And then what he'll do is and I can't, man, and I wish I could remember. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it. Leave in the comments below if you know as fans. I'll look it up after this and be angry that I couldn't remember it. But he will power her up into her super powered version of herself, into her defender or fighter version of herself with him in the comics. He'll power her up and have her fight the Lokis and step back into the background to come out completely in Ant-Man 3. So he'll be there to kill the timekeepers, which severs all connections she might have with the TVA because her allegiance is with him. Then he'll power her up and he'll step out into the quantum realm or back into the time stream, and the Lokis will be forced to fight Ravana, and either she dies or she retreats to be with him with Kang in Ant-Man 3. Regardless, I think she's going to be the end fight
So you think-
as a powered-up Ravana.
So you think that Renslayer at this point has no relations with Kang at all.
No, I think she does.
Okay.
But I think she still is. I think she still buys
But
into
the only way that she does is through him as a timekeeper.
Right. I think she still
Or in
buys into
connection
the
with the
whole.
timekeepers,
she
yeah.
buys into the whole timekeeper dogma. She buys
Right.
into the whole TVA, whatever the thing.
Yeah, because she
thinks
does go
she's
back
doing,
to Hunter B,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
B-35 or whatever.
Right,
it is.
right. She thinks she's doing what's
Right.
best for time, and then when
She's-
she
yeah.
gets there, she's confronted with. This guy's a little more sinister than I thought because he is murdered or murders the timekeepers.
Yeah.
But she's dug in too deep, and
Yeah.
she then pledges allegiance to Kang in her love for him.
Yeah.
And he powers her up and shows his ruthlessness
Right.
because he does not care for her in the comics. Like he
No,
cares for
not at
her
all.
like physically, but not in the sense of like I'm going to keep you safe. So he powers her up and just is like, go.
Right.
Protect me as I go back into the timeline, do what needs to be done, and then she sacrifices herself for him and realizes and gives herself to that cause completely.
I think on that same lines, if that's the route we go down,
Yeah.
I don't think Renslayer is actually like allegiant to the TVA. I think her
No, not at
allegiance-
this point.
No, I don't think at all. Like
You think
I
she's just solely
I
Kang?
think no. I think she is allegiant to the sacred timeline.
Oh,
And
yes,
that's
agreed,
different.
agreed.
I think
agreed.
that's important to clarify.
Yeah.
Is so in that idea, she doesn't then pledge herself out of fear. She pledges herself out of the fact that he's now in control of the sacred timeline.
It's her responsibility.
It's her
then.
responsibility.
Yeah,
It does not
yeah.
matter who's in control of the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
I am allegiant to the sacred timeline because she went to that dogma
Right,
before.
right.
You protect the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
So if that is her dogma, if that's everything that she is built on, then it doesn't matter who's in charge.
Wow.
She's actually trying to potentially find that person or be with that person because that's what she believes in.
Yeah, but it should be a little bit of emotional because she makes decisions recklessly based on her love for Kang. Like she's obsessed with
Right.
Kang.
True.
And
Just
so,
like Thanos with Lady
like,
Love. Or,
yeah, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I actually wouldn't be
a good-
surprised
good
if
comparison.
Kang makes her kill the other timekeepers to show that
that's
she's
a good-
loyal
that's
to
a
him.
good
Honestly,
that's a
I
good
mean,
point too.
Yeah.
as much as I'd love for my theory, not that I really care that much, but I think it would be a great sequence of events. I mean, that's what you're saying is probably more in line with what the MCU would do. So
We'll see. We'll
I
see.
do like the idea though that you're talking about is like this is
Yeah.
the end of
because
time.
Immortus is
Yeah,
a cool
because
character.
Immortus is
Oh,
at the end of
Well,
time.
I still
So-
think Immortus will come into play.
Yeah.
I just
This
think
is-
it would be
He's a
weird
big
to
enough bad
introduce him.
for
He-
to compare to Thanos.
Yeah,
I
he
And
could
that's what
be
they
the next
need.
one.
That's what we've been talking
I
about.
have to
Right.
be clear though.
Well, not on here, but
That
what we
is a
have, us three.
confusing timeline.
Right.
That is a confusing
Right, and
storyline.
that's it's
and
tough.
if that happens, this is where I'm going to be really upset about time travel because that is going to be super confusing.
No, you mean it's gonna be your favorite thing ever?
no?
Logan, but you also realize that now with the TVA, with the quantum realm, with Kang, with all these
is
things,
really-
This whole
with
world
with
is
the-
time
With
travel.
the world of
It's a
where
mess.
we are in episode 5, it's
It's
just
wonderful.
Like, you thought time travel's bad? Well, get a load of all
It's
of this.
wonderful.
Like,
Well,
No,
yeah, and
no,
actually,
no,
like-
but you love Alligator Loki,
I do love Alligator.
and you
Loki.
love classic Loki.
yes.
Time
but
travel brought you
Yes.
that.
That's not time travel bringing me that. But here,
Well,
the other piece that we have
kinda
to
is.
traveled with time by you, so I mean,
we are
to get to this
connecting
point.
specifically to one movie though. We're connecting to I'm moving on.
Right.
We're connecting to Ant-Man 3.
And
Yeah.
it
And
should
the
be.
other movie, the other movie
Oh yeah.
that we need to be
Multiverse.
considering here is
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness.
I know.
But he is not. So that the only thing is that. Well, and I know it doesn't really mean anything, but Kang has not been confirmed for Multiverse of Madness. So like he's been confirmed for Ant-Man 3. He has not
I,
been
I,
confirmed.
I agree with you,
But
but
he also hasn't been confirmed for this show. So
what
they
I'm
could
saying,
do it
what I'm
whenever
saying
they
here,
want.
listen on this. Multiverse of Madness comes out before Ant-Man 3.
Yes.
So Multiverse of Madness, the thing that could create what Kang has to then fix is the Loki's Nexus event, them literally getting together in this castle causes a Nexus event so large in terms of a spike
Yes.
that it takes the sacred timeline into a Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
And now Kang has to not only, and I'm not saying he's going to show up in Multiverse of Madness. What I'm saying is then Strange has to deal with what has just transpired,
Yeah.
and Kang is working in Ant-Man 3 to go back and correct it.
Yeah.
Somehow
Yeah.
change however he can, this multiverse of madness into his sacred timeline.
And if
so that's the other
living-
thing to be thinking about here is
Yeah.
we haven't addressed more of their relationship together, because we have to remember,
Right.
this is not just a time travel show. We said last time, this
Right.
is a Roku.
Yeah.
This is a rom-com,
You know what's
gentlemen.
here's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to kiss Alligator Loki. That's going to create the Nexus event that ends everything.
That I hope it does.
I hope so too.
I hope
we
so.
have we
What
have
if he-
one more episode.
What
One
if he
more
turned into
episode.
something? What if he turned into like Supreme Loki?
The alligator
Yeah, by
Loki.
kissing the
Yeah.
alligator,
Kissing
like
the
yeah, like
alligator.
a frog.
Yeah.
Just like
No, he
kissing
turned
her.
like Godzilla Loki.
Yeah.
Oh,
Godzilla
hey man,
Loki.
one more episode. Anything could happen. This show has been pulling out the stops. We
Never
love
know.
it. We can't wait to see what happens.
I'm on.
We're
Oh,
all
it's
gonna be
gonna
wrong.
We're all
yeah,
gonna be
we're
wrong.
probably
I
all gonna be
actually
wrong.
expect us to all be wrong.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm okay with that.
Thanks for listening to the Legion of Comic Correction. Don't forget to check out our other episodes streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts. We're also on the major social platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search Legion of Comic Correction.
That's right. And make sure to check out our Patreon for exclusive supporter specials at patreon.com/Legion of CC. New episodes come out every Monday.
And Wednesdays.
No, just Mondays.
And Wednesdays?
I don't think we can do Wednesdays.
We can do Wednesdays.
All right, Mondays and Wednesdays. We'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place, same Legion.